All right, what is up? I've got a sponsored request here from a single father raising a daughter alone. He's widowed, lost his wife in a car accident. He's looking for some feedback. He's read my book and understood that I'm raising a daughter as well. I have a shared custody arrangement and I'm divorced. So let's just dive right into this. My question is regards to raising my 4-year-old daughter alone. Lost my wife in a car accident, worried about raising her without her mother, and the effects of growing up without a proper female role model. We have our 2 grandmothers and they do make great babysitters, but I don't believe they possess many of the qualities that my daughter will need as examples in her life to become a proper woman. As a father, how can I fill this void somehow? At this point, I'm not interested in ever replacing my wife and remarrying, although it is still a recent loss. Is remarrying my best or only option for my daughter? What are the risks of me raising as an only child, as a single father? Any insight you would have would be much appreciated. Keep up the good work. Okay, so let's get right into this. First of all, I'm going to say this. Do not discount the value of these 2 grandmothers, especially if your wife was a good woman. Because let's be honest, they did something right. So if it's something about them being old school, maybe it's cultural values, maybe it's, something there, don't sweat that too much. Give them good access to your daughter. Let them spend ample amount of times together. Let them infuse whatever values and lessons that they've learned into your child. Again, do not discount them unless there's something wrong with them, unless there's crazy, unless they have some extremely detrimental or toxic habits that would be damaging to your kid. Let's say, for example, one of these grandmothers is abusive and rough and difficult with the grandfather, abuses him, treats him like crap, speaks poorly of him, things like that. That's kind of toxic. You don't want to set that example because that's what she's going to view for relationships in her life later on in life. So there's just that to be mentioned. As far as what to look out for, look, you're never going to get a woman to care about your daughter the way that her mom cared about her daughter. Any other random woman out there, they're not like men. One of the biggest differences that I've noticed between men and women when it comes to these blended families, and if you don't know what blended families are, it's a term that I came across several years ago after I got divorced and dating. And there's a lot of women out there on the dating scope of things that have kids in tow, and they start using terms like blending families, like you have kids, I have kids, let's move them in together and we'll be the Brady Bunch. Brady Bunch was an old show when I was growing up. I'm dating myself, I realize, but you understand what I'm saying. They want to blend the families, and it's like they move the kids into your house and you kind of you sort of raise them together sort of thing. What you will find is, although that might sound like a good idea, it generally isn't. Most men will find that her kids will be his responsibility without authority, but your kids will be under her authority without any responsibility. She generally doesn't want any kind of responsibility to them, but she'll want the authority of them. That's why you end up with these fairy tale stories of the stepmothers. That's why there's the term the step monster. You never hear anything about that for fathers, generally speaking, although it may exist. Let me know in the comments below. So that's the biggest difference between men and women, is it seems like men are more than happy to adopt and raise another man's kids as his own, provide resources, love, parenting, all that sort of stuff for somebody else's kids, but women aren't as likely to want to do that for another woman's child or children. So understand that you're kind of approaching dating or getting into a relationship from that perspective. You guys let me know in the comments what your experience has been. I'm sure this gentleman that's made this request will read them, so chime in and be as detailed as possible. So there's that. The other risk, since you're asking about risks, I believe is, see, with brothers and sisters, there's no romantic interest. That's why they're always at each other. There's not a lot of incest, right? We've genetically evolved to be repulsed by our genetic siblings. That's just how we are, and it's for diversity. We've evolved that way so that what typically, would have happened when we were nomadic hunter-gatherers was usually by the time the kids hit, puberty and they, became teenagers, we didn't stick around with our parents, forever like most kids do today. They would kind of go off to another tribe and they would, raise a family over there sort of thing. The sons and daughters sort of go in different directions and raise families and, do their own thing with other children from other tribes. That's how it's always been. It's been argued, actually, I read this article the other day. It's kind of interesting. That's why teenage kids get so argumentative and difficult with their parents, is because they speculate anyway that they would want to go off on their own to go and, commingle with other DNA from other tribes and sort of thing, and that would create the genetic diversity that, we experience today sort of thing. So I thought that was interesting to sort of mention in there. So with that being said, The risk that you expose your daughter to is if you invite into your house a woman who has a son or sons. That's where the problem lies. Because you'll find, when you start dating anyway, you'll start talking to some women about their childhood and what their experiences have been. And I found this out as well myself too, is there's a lot of women out there that are, how can I put it, damaged. They have baggage where they're still carrying this issue that they had in their childhood, where they were violated by either stepbrothers, older stepbrothers it usually seems, or a stepfather. So there's that to be considered. The risk goes up dramatically. Like I said, there's a lot of women out there today as adults that carry a lot of baggage, a lot of issues from their childhood that they haven't reconciled or haven't done the work on themselves because of what happened with their kids. It's not their fault, but whose fault is it? Who cares? It doesn't matter. They can do the work on themselves if they really want to, but at the end of the day, you don't want to put your daughter in that environment where they're exposed. If you're going to get involved with a woman on a long-term basis and invite her into your life, I would either advise that she doesn't have kids, which isn't ideal from the perspective of most women never seem to adopt your kids as their own. Again, they want the authority over them, but they don't generally want the responsibility over them. So, that's just how it kind of goes down. I'm sorry to break it down for you, but that's the way it is. Or deal with a woman that's got a child that's same sex as yours. So you've got a daughter who's 4 years old, and this is going to be hard to find. Picture this: a very attractive woman that you want to be with, that you want to, spend time with, doesn't have red flags, also has a kid that's the same gender as yours and roughly the same age, and then sort of blend families that way, which is next to impossible to find. I mean, you'd probably be in a better position to try to find a leprechaun at the end of a rainbow with a pot of gold than you will finding a chick that will tick off those boxes. Oh, and by the way, will also find you just as attractive and just be as interested in you as you are in her. So slim pickings, my friend. I am sorry to state it. The good news is that your kid's young. I've got a few friends who are widowed, and the two that I know of where their wives had passed mostly in their late 40s or 50s. The kids were mostly grown up, and one of them's got 2 daughters, the other's got a daughter and a son. But the kids, for whatever reason, mostly the girls, had a very, very difficult time connecting and being, I don't want to say kind, but in some senses, they kind of turned into assholes to their fathers, even though it wasn't their fault. That their wife either had an accident and passed or got sick and passed, for example. But they seem to take it out on the father. I don't know if that's consistent. Again, leave that one in the comments and you guys let me know. But the ones that I know that lost their wives, or there's one that I know the mom was a total bum and he just ended up having full custody and the mom just sort of disappeared from the picture. He ended up raising the daughter. They were all good. So give your daughter good access to both grandmothers if they're good people. Don't worry about old school cultural values or any of those things. That's all good, man. Let the grandmothers teach her how to cook and sew and do like conventionally, feminine practices and traits and stuff like that. That's actually a very good thing. Don't sweat that too much. Watch out for step siblings that are opposite sex, boys that could potentially do something. If you do get involved with a woman that's got boys, make sure that you put protective measures in place where there's checks and balances, where it's like, don't let them sleep in the same bedroom together, for example, or share a bedroom, like weird stuff like that. Take baths together, stuff like that. So you have to be careful from that perspective. And just understand that if you do invite a woman into your kid's life, she's probably not going to adopt her as her own. What I would do in the dating phase, though, is to really test her. I mean, you don't want to have a revolving door, in your dating life or in your daughter's life, where every few months or every year or something like that, there's a new chick that shows up and she's pretending to be mom or stepmom or whatever it happens to be. So really vet for red flags, which is 20 red flags in my chapter in my book. If you don't have the book, you can get the chapter for free by downloading it, by opting into my email list. Vet for red flags. Make sure you spend a good year and a half with her to see what she's made of before you introduce her to your daughter. And then if there's any issues where, she's stepping way out of line, creating problems, friction, step monster sort of stuff, like stepmother, step monster sort of stuff that goes really bad, you're gonna have to choose, dude. And if your priority is your kid, then choose your kid, over whoever it is you're dating. Because if she's just a train wreck, or she's mistreating your daughter, or stepping out of line, you gotta set a firm boundary, dude. Set a very firm boundary and just be like, all right, next. And just be honest with your kid. Let your kid know what your mom was all about. Again, she's a good woman. What she was all about, culture, background, all that sort of stuff. Tell lots of stories. I think it's important that the issue is known, but you have to move forward from it too. It's got to be tough, dude. Like, condolences. Even though me and my kid's mom are not a good fit, I don't know how it would have turned out for her growing up without having a mother in the picture. So that's going to be difficult. Again, the good news is it happened. I mean, good news, but I mean, it happened at a young age, so she'll be able to adapt and sort of evolve through it. Young children, the best thing about young children is they're so pliable, they're so malleable, they're very adaptive. So that'll be, the only silver lining in this equation. But make the best of it. Spend lots of time with her. Make sure you don't ignore her. That's one of the worst things that I've seen fathers do, is they are basically a piece of furniture and they give their kids a screen, or they give their kids a computer, and they lock themselves in their room. Teenage years, you got to be super careful with, because like I said earlier, teenagers, they do get rather disagreeable, and they try to separate themselves from their parents as they get older. They think they know it all. I'll have to give you an accurate review of the teen years when those complete. They're different, I'll say that. Girls are wonderful, they're sweet. A friend of mine once said, if I could freeze my daughter at any age, it would have been like 7 years old. It's like the sweetest age ever, because they're still compliant, they're still agreeable, they're not disagreeable, they don't know everything at that stage, and they're old enough to do everything. They can wipe their own bum, and they can take a shower and all that sort of stuff. So enjoy it, my friend. Life gives you lemons. Go make yourself a lemon meringue pie. Make the best of it. Tread carefully, and be very, very careful about any women or any other children that are not blood related that you introduce or invite into your daughter's life. Check out the top pinned comment. There's a bunch of useful links to stuff that I'm affiliated with below. My book, my course, all that kind of stuff. Have a look there. And guys, again, if you've got some experience in this realm of life, leave a comment below and let this guy know what you did or had done raising your daughter. See you guys later. Peace out.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.